I was born into a small family that was devoutly Roman Catholic. We would attend all the services, and I was a good girl who attended Sunday school. I excelled in religious scripture, and I had memorized the Bible by the time I was 10 years old. My mother was a zealot. My brother and I were forced to call her Mother Mary. One day, I came home from school, and I received a perfect score on my maths exam. I cried out to my mother as I entered the kitchen. She was cooking dinner for us. "Mother, I passed! Perfect score!" I said with excitement reverberating in my voice. She stopped what she was doing and she turned to me. A burning hatred emanated from her icy blue eyes. I wanted to take a step back, but I didn't dare. I realized what I had done. Her hand moved so fast, I didn't even have time to flinch as it struck my face. There was a loud crack. Instantly, my mouth was filled with the metallic taste of blood as it escaped the side of my lips. It trickled down my face and onto my white blouse. The slap rocked me so hard, I dropped to my knees, tears flowing out of my eyes, stinging my swollen lips as the tears mixed with the blood. "What did you call me, devil spawn?" Rage blasted from her mouth. Such bile should never have been said by anyone who was called mother. "I'm sorry, Mother Mary. Please forgive me, for I have sinned against you." My mother grabbed my hand, turning it up to the heavens. With her other hand, she picked up a wooden spoon and she started lashing my hand with it. The pain was immense, and I screamed and I screamed. She would not stop until her rage had subsided. When she was done, her cherry red hair fell over her blue eyes, and her face untwisted to reveal a beautiful woman with fine features. Her nose was delicate, her lips were as red as her hair. She was a slim, petite woman, but when anger took her, she turned into a demon. This behaviour carried on for another year until I was 13 years old. She decided the only way to deal with a devil like me was to send me to a convent to become a woman of faith. The day I entered the convent, I was met by the Mother Superior. She was an older lady, dressed in a full nun's habit, leaning heavily on a wooden cane. The only thing visible was her face. Numerous lines creased her features, which told me she had lived a very harsh life in the convent. Her eyes were hazel, and there was no hint of compassion behind them. Her voice was strict and stern. She scared me. "Who do we have here? Your mother has told me that you are a rather difficult child that needs special attention." She was cold. But Mother Superior, crack! I felt the cane impact my ribs. "How dare you speak to me, child? Be quiet. I do not want to hear you speak to me again when you are in my presence." Trying to breathe after the blow was painful. I dared not to speak again unless that cane hit me again. "You will be housed with the other girls. Sister Rebecca will take you to your room. Do not speak to her. She has taken a vow of silence and will not answer you. Now be gone from my sight. I will deal with you later." What fresh hell had I been sent to? I was escorted by Sister Rebecca towards the girls' dormitory. Once we arrived, she motioned for me to sit down in a chair, and she retrieved a set of scissors from a desk. The sister cut off all my hair, and my beautiful, long, red hair fell limply on the floor. By the time the sister was done, I was bald. A few days later, I was led into another room. It was dark. Candles illuminated the walls, and the flames danced in the gentle breeze. The Mother Superior was sitting at a desk, her face buried in a book. Sister Rebecca nudged me through the door into the room. The door closed behind me with a loud bang, and it was locked, preventing any escape. Fear rose into every fibre of my being. I needed to leave this place before the nunnery killed me. Mother Superior rose from her desk, and she approached one of the candles. Her attention was fixed on it. "Come here, girl," she commanded. I hesitated momentarily, unsure if I should go to her or attempt to flee. "Now!" she screamed. I almost jumped out of my skin at her voice. I walked over to her quickly. "Unbutton your blouse." Her cold voice echoed off the walls. Did as I was asked. My fingers trembled as the buttons reluctantly slid through the holes. Clearly, I was not moving quick enough for the mother. As she turned to me and grabbed either side of my blouse and she ripped it open, the buttons flew off with such force that they hit the wall on the other side of the room. The cold air touched my bare skin under my blouse. I felt exposed. I started whimpering as the tears began to leak out of my eyes. "Enough of that." Her words hit me like another slap in the face. Reaching down to the candle, her hand lovingly traced something that seemed to be sticking out of the flame and ran down the candle. She lifted it up. I could make out a black string connected to something. As she lifted it out of the flame, I could make out a crucifix, previously silver, before it was baptized and darkened in the flame. Dangling in front of my face, she smiled. Before I could react, she forced the metal onto my bare breast. The skin sizzled as it started to burn. The air smelt of burnt flesh. I screamed as she pushed it harder against my breast. "That's it. Let the devil out." I felt as it was melting into my skin. The pain was horrendous, and all I could think about was the stinging pain. She looked past the candle, and her smile grew. It seemed unnatural, almost like a demon possessed her. I knew that expression. That was the same as my mother's when she beat me. Out of the darkness, two sisters appeared. They grabbed my arms and dragged me in front of the Mother Superior's desk. With a loud slap, they forced me face down onto the desk, and both arms were pulled out to my sides, almost like the cross that was embedded in my breast. The Mother Superior walked around and pulled my head up painfully, and she looked deep into my eyes. Her expression of sick joy had become palpable. She had something evil planned, and I knew it. She opened one of the drawers and pulled out a ceremonial knife. Its long silver blade reflected off the candlelight. It had gold inlays of 3 crosses, a dove, and a fish. Mother Superior walked to my left and spoke in Latin. I couldn't understand her. Her chant would have been soothing if I was not scared out of my mind. I felt the knife press against the back of my hand as it started pushing through it slowly. My screams echoed throughout the room. I could feel the knife penetrating me until it hit the solid desk below. She repeated the same thing with my other hand. "The holy stigmata is complete," she laughed. "Now take her to the asylum." That day, I was led away from the convent to the asylum. Its dark walls were foreboding. Large thick steel bars caressed the windows, and there looked like there would be no escape. Fear was eating me alive, the wounds on my hands. The holy stigmata, she called it, and the metal cross was burned deep into my skin. The sisters left it there in its new home. What I had done to deserve this? Why, God, why? I can read your holy book cover to cover in my mind. Am I not devoted enough for you? Or am I like Job, doomed to suffer? I was dragged up the stairs. I didn't have enough strength to fight. I'd lost a lot of blood from my hands. Somehow, I knew I was going to die here. The large wooden doors opened into the asylum, and the cold white tile floor slid under my feet as they were dragged. The sisters took me to a padded room. No hard surfaces could be seen anywhere. They threw me into the large room. I didn't even feel the floor. I just lay there, wishing to die. For 2 days, no one came to see me. I had no food or drink. My mouth was bitterly dry. It was painful to swallow. "Hello?" came a voice from above me. I must be finally losing my mind now. "Hello, Eve. Don't be scared," came a voice. It was tender, almost like his words were embracing me. A warmth spread over my entire being. Have I finally died? "Eve, my name is Michael, and God sent me here to save you," the voice said. "Archangel Michael?" I whispered into the empty room. "Yes, Eve, the very one. You need to be patient. I will help you very soon. Do not lose faith in me." The voice stopped speaking as the door to my cell unlocked and swung open. A burst of fresh air assaulted my nose. Standing at the door was the Mother Superior. Her face was twisted in that same sick smile. Her teeth were yellow and stained, and I could almost imagine the stench from her lips. "Hello, my sweet Eve. How I've missed you. I have come." She grabbed her throat and started garbling on something. Her face began to darken from white to dark red. A black liquid started to froth from her lips. Her eyes began to bulge, and the mother was clearly panicked. Mother Superior was frozen to the spot by a pair of unseen hands that seemed to be draining the life from her. "Help!" she managed to cry out before there was a large cracking sound as her head began to move in an unnatural motion as she was trying to look up to the heavens. Her neck stretched as the skin was pulled taut, and the mother was breathing no more. "Eve, I told you I'd save you." The familiar voice came from outside. The Mother Superior's body was kneeling. Her hands were clasped together in prayer, and her head was looking backwards outside of the room, as if she was looking for someone. Running past the Mother Superior's penitent form, I didn't make it very far out of the room until I ran into a man. His chest was solid. Taking a step back, his beauty stole my breath away. His hair was full of golden curls. His eyes were green like raw emeralds, and his face was finely chiseled, almost like from pure marble. From his back were 4 sets of wings, the most pristine white, and the feathers were so small and delicate, I felt like they would break if I would touch them. "Eve, you need to leave now. There's a small cave 5 miles to the north from this place. Find it, and I'll be there waiting for you. Now go. May God's grace be with you." As the asylum faded into the distance, the sun's warm rays started to appear over the horizon. It soaked the environment in a blood red. My bare feet were scratched and cut from the rocks as I ran. There was no pain. My fear of being caught was so great. I didn't know if I was heading the right way, but I sensed I was on the right path, almost like the voice of God was guiding me home. In the distance, there was a small hole jutting out the side of the hill. The darkness called to me, beckoning me to venture forth. The cave was small enough to crawl into. The wet mud poked its head through my fingers as I crawled inside. It felt like I'd entered the abyss. My eyes could not focus on the darkness, and the mud became firm under my hands. I could feel something crawling on my head, its long legs seeking something warm. This made me hurry down the path even quicker. A tiny pinprick of light came into focus. I didn't notice the colour at first, as I made my way deeper into the cave. Eventually, it became more prominent, and I could see that it was not amber, as you would expect from a naked flame. It was dark red. Entering a more extensive section of the cave, there was a chalice in the centre of the room, from which a red flame danced along its golden edges. The chalice was enormous. It looked unnaturally large for a human to drink from. Rubies and emeralds decorated the cup. "Eve, welcome to my home." His voice bounced off the walls. It caused me to shrink away. It did not seem as welcoming and sweet as before. "Michael, is that you?" My voice was shaky and uncertain. "Not exactly. I may have been a little bit untruthful to you before." His voice had a sinister edge, making me even more scared. From the darkness, his body started to materialize, almost like he was naturally part of the darkness. His blonde hair was now gone, replaced with jet black strands. His emerald eyes now shone a deep crimson, and his beautiful wings were no more. They looked like 4 reptilian arms, with thin membrane of black skin, torn in places that drooped down over a set of twisted wings. "But if I cast out the demons by the finger of God, then the kingdom of God has come upon you," I whispered under my breath. The creature stopped in front of me, smiling. His pointed teeth escaped from behind his lips, and his long, snake-like tongue flicked out. "Has God saved you, my dear Eve?" "Of course not. That's why I am here. I've been watching you for many years and loved you when God has not." He reached down and took my hands. The blood from the wounds the Mother Superior inflicted on me were weeping through the dirty bandages. With such tenderness, he undid the bindings and he looked at my hands. "This is what God's love did to you, Eve. Now I will show you what my love can do." His voice sounded like a kind lover. Raising my hands to his mouth, I closed my eyes. I wanted to avoid seeing what would come next. I could almost feel those sharp teeth biting into me, but instead, there was something warm and wet wrapping around my hands. Gathering the courage to look, his crimson eyes were locked onto mine, and his tongue was wrapped around both my hands. Warmth spread through them, and there was a slight burning. His tongue flowed away from my hands, and the wounds healed, but not completely. Next, his hand pressed on the crucifix embedded in my flesh. His smile was so charming, and his eyes burned into me. That familiar burning sensation tingled across my chest. "Oh, my beautiful Eve, how would you like revenge on those who did this to you?" I nodded feebly as his smile became even sweeter. Leaning forward, his lips were next to my ear, and he spoke so only I could hear him in the dark. "I can make it happen, Eve. I can give you the strength to make everything right. You must promise yourself to me." Without hesitation, I mouthed the words, "Yes." Taking my hand in his, he led me to the chalice. Standing motionless in front of its flame, I could not feel any warmth, but I knew what I must do. Letting go of his hand, I thrust my arms into the crimson flames. At first, I felt nothing. Within a few seconds, my entire body screamed in pain. Each cell was being broken down instantly and reformed in its new visage. My pale white skin started to burn and blister. It was agony. The flesh began to bubble and harden. My arms, starting to turn the same color as the flame, as the white skin was replaced by black scales. My fingers started to elongate, and black nails started to protrude from the tips. They grew to an incredible length. My back started to tear. I could hear the skin ripping, like the sound of Velcro being unfastened. 2 bones began to extend outwards. I could feel them stretching out into the darkness, and I knew they were beautiful. After the metamorphosis was complete, I stood before my benefactor. His beauty was only now realized in my new form. The love of God was absent in this body. I have cast off all the shackles of this so-called faith. There is no love anymore, only hatred and a desire for revenge. Hey, Mike here. I hope you enjoyed today's lullaby. If you like my content, please like, comment, and subscribe. And remember, keep watching for what's in the dark.